Well, 2 weeks into the regular season, we've already had the game of the year. I mean, my God, what a comeback by Inter Miami. They come back 4-2 over Orlando City. And at one point, this did not look like this would be the case, especially after they were down 2-0 in the first half of this game. So we're going to break down the first half and the second half and what we saw between both these teams, Inter Miami and Orlando City. But before we get to that, make sure you guys like this video down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So let's start off with the first half of the Turnpike Derby, right? This game, it was a little bit misleading, right? In the first half, Orlando City didn't really have that crazy of an expected goal rate. It's like 0.26. They made the most of their shots, and Miami dominated possession, total shots, and shots on target. They did, I guess you could say, look like the better team, but in some points they didn't. So let's talk about the first half, right? In the first half, Inter Miami came out. It was back and forth, looked like an evenly tested match. Kind of looked a little bit like the LAFC Inter Miami game where you couldn't really tell there was a possession difference. It looked very, very evenly matched. But then 18 minutes in, Paslic had a good goal, bad marking by Noah Allen and Mikael, and a poor save by Dane St. Clair. And at this point, Dane St. Clair really has had a lot of issues with Inter Miami. A lot of people are like, oh my God, this guy is going to be a bust for Inter Miami. He's not living up to the price tag. They spent $1.2 million on this goalkeeper, and he has been terrible. So things are bad. They're at a -4 goal difference at the season at this point. Then in the 24th minute, Ojeda had a beautiful outside the boots goal that was just incredible. There was nothing that Dane St. Clair could do about that. Inter Miami is down 2-0 in the first half, and things are looking really, really bad. And there was a lot of issues with Inter Miami in the first half because they kept doing this thing. They always do this thing where they play through the middle of the field and they don't play out wide. And Messi just gets the lanes get clogged on Messi, and they can't create anything. They cannot create any chances. They're better when they play out wide. And they just always forget to do this for some reason. So the first half they really struggled. They weren't playing out wide. I thought Noah Allen was terrible because he's just not good in the attack. His defense is very, 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 very mediocre. A lot of issues with him. I think he was the worst player on the pitch in the first half, worse than Dane St. Clair, in my opinion. I thought DePaul was pretty good. I saw some people on Twitter saying that they thought DePaul was bad. I thought he looked really good in the first half. I thought he controlled the ball well. I thought he made some good passes. I thought he looked good defensively. The only mistake he made was the pass and the turnover to Angulo that led to the first goal with Pasalic. That was the one thing that really he did bad. But I thought he was pretty good, especially in the first half. Bertarame couldn't do anything because they were playing a low block after the 2-0 lead. And there was a point where I was like watching the game, and it was Bertarame in goal, right? In the box. And then there was like 5 or 6 Orlando City players around him and no other Inter Miami player. And when you do that, him being a poacher, you're just essentially making him useless, right? So he couldn't do anything. And Orlando City just capitalized on all their opportunities. They were better in the first half, at least at executing, right? So Orlando City goes in the second half up 2-0. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Inter Miami has a -5 goal difference in their first 2 games of the 2026 MLS season. This is a horrible start. And is it going to be a precursor for what's to come for the Champions Cup, for other MLS games? Because keep in mind, Inter Miami has to play their first 5 games on the road because their new stadium is being built, and they're not going to be playing any games at Miami Freedom, or not Miami Freedom Park, but Drive Pink or Chase Stadium, whatever the hell it's called. They're not playing any games there except for Champions Cup. So they're playing as road warriors at the beginning of the season. It's tough to win on the road. It really is. In any league, in any sport, it's not easy to win on the road. So bad start. Head into the second half. I'm thinking, okay, is Javier Mascherano going to make any adjustments? Is he going to make any substitutions? So he does. He takes Noah Allen out and he brings Matteo Salvetti in. And Matteo Salvetti comes into the game. And Matteo Salvetti was arguably the second best player for Inter Miami last year. Matteo Salvetti comes in the second half and scores in the 49th minute to make it 2-1. And you guys know what I say. I've been saying it as long as I can remember. Inter Miami never scores 1 goal. They score two. They score three. They score four. They score five. They just score. They never just score one singular goal. They always score two or more if they score at all. That's just how it is. That's what they do. So they score with Matteo Salvetti and they get the first goal. And I remember Danny coming on at halftime of the watch along, Danny Granada of Battered Herons, and he said that he thinks it was going to be 2-2 in the second half. Well, they got their first one, right? They automatically look better. And then Messi scored an absolute banger in the 57th minute to tie the game up 2-2. Absolute banger. Classic Messi curler to the right side. Beautiful goal. Beautiful goal to tie it up in the 57th minute. And at that point, I'm like, okay, they're rocking and rolling. It's 2-2. They are cooking in the second half. This could be bad for Orlando City. Orlando City looks like they don't know what to do because they were playing out wide and it opened the game up. And Orlando City was forced to stop playing a low block and they had to start doing more to try to win. Like they were trying to get the result. So they had to open things up a little bit more, which opened things up even more for Inter Miami. So Inter Miami's tied 2-2 and they look like the better team. Well, things kind of stalled out a little bit because they were exhausted. They kind of gave maximum effort, I'd say, in the second half for the first 20 minutes, and they got 2 goals out of it. But then the guys started getting tired because they only made one substitution in the second half, which was Noah Allen for Matteo Salvetti. So that's all they did. Well, at that point, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be probably it's probably going to be a draw. Like it's going to be 2-2. But then Segovia scored an absolute banger. Oh my God. Segovia might have been the player of the game. I don't know. Segovia he had a spectacular game, especially in the second half. He scored a beautiful goal, low right. Maxime Crepeau couldn't get to it to get the lead in the 85th minute, right? And then at that point, it's like, okay, they've got all the momentum. And then in the 88th minute, Guski got a second yellow, which resulted in a red to put Orlando City down to 10 men. Messi lined up for a free kick in the 90th minute, and Messi had, missed a free kick a couple times tonight, but this one was beautiful, low left side. Maxime Crepeau went right underneath his chest. He couldn't save it, right? To put Inter Miami up 4-2 and seal the deal for them to win. What a comeback. This has been, no joke, this is one of the best regular season games I've watched in a very long time. And this is the first time that Inter Miami has ever beaten Orlando at Orlando in the history of the club. First time happened tonight. It's also the first time that Messi played at Orlando since he's been at Miami since 2023. So 2 historic moments for Inter Miami in this match tonight. And they got the job done. And I mean, what an impressive game this was. This is a resilience win for them. Guys, their back was against the wall. They were down a -5 goal difference in their first 2 games and the first 3 halves of the season. And this was make or break. I mean, they really needed to get something going, and they did. This is the Miami team that's a sleeping giant. When it wakes up, I don't think anyone can beat them. I don't think anyone could beat them when they play like this. And this was vintage Messi. Telasco Segovia was good. Like I said, Matteo Salvetti was good. Tadio Yende really wasn't that good. Kind of was playing injured. He was limping a lot. I think he's still trying to get the rust off because he didn't play in the preseason. But collectively, this was a very, very good performance. And I would say if I had to give my player of the game, Messi obviously is up there. Segovia is a close second. I'd probably say it's a tie because Segovia did have 3 goal contributions, 2 assists, and 1 goal. And as far as disappointing performances I'll give a disappointing performance and a best performance for Orlando too. But as far as disappointing performances, Noah Allen was really bad. Dane St. Clair, by the way, had a good second half. He had some key saves. He had 1 key save on Martin Ojeda that maybe it saved him the game. So he bounced back in the second half. He kind of came alive in the second half. But Noah Allen was probably my worst player for Inter Miami. My second worst player probably had to be Bertarame. And I don't know if it's really his fault because he did have that key goal, I think, when Telasco Segovia scored. He kind of had the start on that, winning possession back and getting that going. But overall, I think he was disappointing because when they were down, it really doesn't fit his style of play of what they needed him to do. Kind of became a little bit useless, but I think things will pick up and he'll start to produce more. And as far as Orlando City, I think my worst player was probably Duncan McGuire, and my best player was probably Martin Ojeda or Marco Pasalic. They both were very, very good. they just weren't able to create enough chances. And that's a problem with Orlando City. They really need a striker. They need someone up top that can give them that confidence. Someone when they went down after having the lead, that can kind of lead them to battle, right? And I think that that's what Antoine Griezmann can do for them if they get that over the line. So I thought this was an insanely entertaining game. I had so much fun watching this. I thought it was the game I've seen of all season long. And Inter Miami, they get a much needed win heading into their long road trip that they have. 3 more games on the road. So it's impressive to see what they've done. Absolutely classic, guys. I'm curious to see what you guys think. And I was a little bit hard on Javier Mascherano because I didn't think he was making the adjustments, but he did, and they were able to get the dub. So I want to know what you guys think. Who was your player of the match for this game? What was the most exciting thing you saw? And were you surprised Inter Miami made the comeback? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.